Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 62.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards. Today's episode, we change things up, and I share with you an excerpt from a coaching call I did with one of our clients. He's in the process of opening a new practice out in Denver, and I really felt like there was so much value that we could share from today's call. And Matt was graciously open to allowing you to listen in to some of the challenges and successes with this journey. We put a lot of emphasis today on reviewing what we call the lifetime care map and talking about things like your marketing strategy, understanding your front end offer, knowing what your core product is, and really starting to understand how to frame this up, your positioning, your competitive advantage. So we nail a lot of really important things today, and we actually spend quite a bit of time on understanding the need for your single target market. And, Matt is in a situation where, he has a couple of potential target markets. How do we decide which one to focus on, and what does that look like? What are the best lead acquisition strategies? So without further ado, I'll allow you to listen in and enjoy today's episode of Life by Design for Chiropractors. So why don't we do this? Why don't we start off with doing a little bit of triage? I know we're in a practice startup type phase, so there's always going to be lots of questions and things that have come up. Why don't you just fire off a list of a bunch of stuff, and I know you have some of those things. And then after that, I have some content that I'd like to focus around. I know Mike and you chatted about Facebook groups and things along that line, and Mike messaged me and said to put it on my list. And really, we just launched both of ours, and I can't tell you how great they're going. I have a whole new thought process about this and some ideas, and I really see this as have a huge potential for your single target market. And in your case, in my case, that single target market, right, is 30 to 60-year-old females, moms, and caregivers. Yeah. We can nail that target market and really start to build some trust and credibility in that area and locally, then I think, not month one, but month 5, 6, 7, year 1, 2, 3, you're the guy. When they choose chiropractic, you're the person they're going to choose. So we'll go over that. But why don't we start with the triage stuff? Why don't you just fire off a bunch of stuff, and then I'll pick through them.
Yeah, so the groups is definitely one of them. The other thing is I'm not concerned, but just unsure of how this process is going to look when we open up day one. Like I got the day 1, day 2 down. I've got, the phone call, and when they walk in the office, that shouldn't be a problem. But what I'm unsure of is, the table talk is the table talk. I think that's going to improve as I do it more and more. But I don't know. I've never done the adjusting the way I'm going to do it now, which is, it is what it is. Yeah. I'm going to be changing that just to fit more into like what we're trying to do and differentiate ourselves, kind of the way you've discussed with me. Yeah. And the other thing that I'm unsure about is the feedback cycles and the workshops. Like I'd like to have workshops implemented. I don't know enough now to do that or how it's going to look, I guess, is probably the biggest thing. Okay. All
right. So let's do this then. Is there any other triage stuff, like issues coming up in have you solidified a location? What's the progress there?
Yeah. I can sign at any time now. It's just more I'm waiting on my architect to get done with the drawings. I want to submit those and get permitting before we completely sign our soul over. That way I don't have 6 months of free rent, and I don't want to have a day wasted.
No, I think that's a great idea. So do you feel good about the location then? You're happy with where you ended up?
The location's it's like the 31st most affluent neighborhood in the country, so it's right in the heart of the wealthy, and it's also right in the heart of this business district, so it's really nice location.
Good. You were able to negotiate pretty good rent?
Good rent, better than I would have found outside of that location. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah, it's good. Really well. It's really well.
Well, that's huge, because on the front end, when you sign that deal, that's huge opportunity to make it or break it, right? If your cash flow going out is huge, and you nailed a really nice rent at a good location, that we can't even say how great that could be for you. So that's awesome. Plus 6 months free rent. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So keep me updated there as you go along, and obviously I'd love to see some of the designs and see.
Okay, I'll get that to you. I'll get that to you.
Okay, perfect. So let's do this. I think there's going to be a lot of value in this, and I tell you, I did this for myself this week, and that's why I think there's value. You have access to your email right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to send you something. I want you to open it up.
Okay.
Nonetheless, it'll come through and you'll see it. But for the most part, you remember what the lifetime care map looks like.
Yes.
Right? So you got the big arrow, and then we got our stages of care: correct, rebuild, optimize, and then at the front end you have marketing, or what we've deemed here value. So you get the basic idea of that. And I was going through this week with my own practice and with the Fit Club and really trying to break this down even further as we're starting to retarget where we're directing some of the marketing. And I started to... You got it there?
Yeah.
Okay, open that up. And you'll see my notes written all over it. So my suggestion is you create one of those for yourself or print it out, and you can go back through some of this and tweak it for yourself.
Okay.
But I'm going to talk today about Facebook groups and how to do those, and some of the content around that, and some of the basically the step-by-step process to getting one started and getting people in it. So I'll walk you through that. But I want you to see where it fits and why, and I think this will help you with your overall marketing. So in the front end where you have the value, which is marketing, think of that like lead acquisition, right? And I think a lot of times we think of marketing in terms of, okay, cold, warm, hot, which is great. But the thing I didn't really think a lot about was, how am I measuring people moving down that, right? Am I actually acquiring these leads? Or on social media, they're liking, they're joining your page, those types of things. But, social media works. That's not necessarily acquiring that lead, okay? Yeah. So I started to think more in terms of lead acquisition. Like, how can I get these people somewhere? Now, there's lead magnets, right? And that's one of them. And, you've discussed this with Mike, and having something on your website is great. Get them on an email list, have a follow-up campaign, have a welcome campaign, all that kind of stuff. So that's part of the lead acquisition. But then I started thinking, wouldn't it be great to get some of these people off of social media somewhere? If I can't get them in an email, what would be another place that I could get them? And it's funny because I had the moms group already started and our VIP office group before Facebook made those changes to their algorithm.
Okay.
This just played right into my hand, because now Facebook is saying, look, we want to create groups. We want you to be engaging people who are joining your group, and we're going to take a lot of that attention away from your Facebook page unless you're going to pay for it or create amazing content that people are sharing and so on.
Yeah.
So we created this moms group as an example. And the moms group really fits exactly what we're looking for in this lead acquisition. So you'll see here on my lead acquisition, it has cold, warm, hot. And then it has 3 statements underneath of it: single target markets, competitive advantage, and positioning. Right? So these are 3 things that you're going to need to have in place, and we're going to have to start thinking about. We've talked about it with building your lexicon and going through your proprietary process. So you've started to nail some of this stuff, but the next step is to really dig in on this stuff. So, for example, a single target market. And this is a problem in chiropractic because we think chiropractic is for everybody. And it is, but that doesn't sell when we're marketing, right? We need to be hitting our single target market. So for us and for you, let's say females 30 to 60, moms and caregivers, right? Really nice target market. How do we get to them? We can do it through content, which is, a part of it. We can get a lead magnet, like we have the 5 things you need to know for your kids to be healthy, or something like that. Something you might be missing for your kids to be healthy. I can't remember the exact lead magnet. But we find that the lead magnets are performing at a far lower level than they did even a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And we're just getting less opt-ins for probably a bunch of different reasons. With Facebook and the group, creating this moms group, it starts with mom, we're nailing our single target market, right? We're able to get them off of Facebook, so to speak, into a separate area. With the groups, they're able to see everything we post because the notifications, they're going to be getting those. And you can ask them to set their notifications so they're going to get those. And within that, you can really start to build trust, build credibility, position yourself. So let's say, for example, when I was doing this for our practice, female 30 to 60 mom and caregiver, what's our competitive advantage? And it's going to be different in different markets. But in our market, the competitive advantage is we're a specialist, right? And that's something that we've really communicated a lot. So, what's the difference between, a conventional chiropractor and a Life by Design chiropractor? Well, we're a specialist. You know how you have a family physician and an orthopedic surgeon? That's the explanation I give to them. So without basically saying to them, look, I'm better than a traditional chiropractor, conventional chiropractor, I'm letting them make that decision in their mind and kind of come to that conclusion, basically. Because in their mind, family physician, orthopedic surgeon, that's more schooling, more education, right? So our competitive advantage is I'm a specialist, same with you. Depending on the technique, right, that you use, and even more so, Matt, it's not even the technique, it's more how you communicate your technique, right? We're a non-manipulation office. Now, it doesn't mean I don't do seated corrections. It doesn't mean I don't do, Gonstead corrections along with toggle recoil and Thompson. But to them, we're not manipulating the spine. We're making corrections to the spine. Okay? So I think that's a really huge thing, at least in our market. And then the other big one, which may or may not be in your market, is testing, right? Just the comprehensive nature of the examination. So in your market, you might have lots of offices doing x-rays. In your case, you're going to do other things other than just x-rays, right? So you're going to have structural radiographs. You're going to have, bilateral weight distribution, advanced palpation, possibly EMG analysis, thermography studies, spirometry, whatever it is you're doing. The more comprehensive nature, the more you are creating a competitive advantage over other people. Okay, so just thinking of that when you're starting to identify, okay, I got my single target market. What's my competitive advantage? Now, if our target market is female, mom, and caregiver 30 to 60, your competitive advantage might be something about your specialty with children, right? Might be having your wife as a doctor. Yeah. Right? Having a female doctor who has a quote unquote, special focus on kids and pregnant moms. Really huge competitive advantage, especially in that target market. And then the final piece always is positioning, and that's where this week we messaged back and forth about the positioning statement. Yeah. Right? And you were pretty much on the, nailed it. That's what the positioning statement is. And then it's just a matter of, how do you lead people down that funnel and getting the art of it in the form of communicating. So it's not just kind of regurgitating the same thing. It's saying that statement, hanging back, seeing how they respond. Do they ask more? Do they lead you down a different path? Do they have questions? Getting to the point where you're slow playing it, and eventually they go, so what do I need to do? How do I get in? What's the next step for me? Oh, well, let me go ahead and tell you, versus really kind of leaning in and getting on top of them and trying to, push them into scheduling a case review. Okay? So
go really quickly, Jamie, on that positioning statement. I found a lot of questions on like, so you guys don't work with pain or you guys don't work with symptoms. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really sure how to go with that.
Yeah, I want to maybe record you saying it, could be part of it, like to hear what it sounds like, because I don't see that a lot, especially the way we chatted about it over email. Let's say somebody says, oh, you're a chiropractor. Yeah, actually, well, when conventional chiropractors are great at this, I'm a Life by Design chiropractor, I'm a corrective chiropractor, I do this. They might say, oh, so, I have this shoulder problem. Is that something you deal with? Well, I would say we see a lot of people with shoulder problems. In many cases, there's an underlying issue that could be contributing to their shoulder. And of course, as I said earlier, those problems could be affecting all kinds of other things in your body as well. Yeah. So you're not taking that away from them. You're always coming back to that, and you're still allowing them to, have a connection to that idea. Yeah. But you're not saying, oh, yeah, I can fix your shoulder.
Gotcha.
Right? So, you should never really get people saying, oh, you don't do that. If they did say that, you would obviously bridge the gap for them and help them understand, well, look, this core problem could be totally playing a role in what you're experiencing. And we've had, given social proof, right? We've had lots of people, lots of cases, in fact, who've had a similar issue and they've had a lot of success. That said, this underlying problem could totally be affecting other things that you're not even aware of. And then I'd stop talking. Gotcha. And they'd say, oh, well, yeah, I guess you have to let people mentally process, right? So let's say we've gone through this and you've started to develop at least a little bit of a framework around this lead acquisition. We'll come back to the moms group as one of those avenues. So we've talked about lead magnets, Facebook groups, just basic social media, even though, again, it's hard to tell if you're acquiring that lead. And then, again, being out speaking and things like that, collecting email addresses. So there's ways to acquire leads. And there's a few others that are, we can go into later. The point is it gets you to this pivotal moment. And I think this is going to be really, really powerful, Matt, to really think about it this way for your process.
what you have on the front end is what's called a front end offer, or an FEO. Okay? The issue in chiropractic is, let's flip it. In my gym, my front end offer is how to lose 12 pounds in 28 days. Great front end offer. In fact, since we've been doing it, we're nailing it because it hits every single thing for a front end offer. There's low risk. The results are pretty quick. There's very much no barrier. It's very specific to a problem, and it's not a full solution, right? They still have to keep doing something else.
Right.
The problem is in chiropractic, I don't want to give them any type of care, right, as a front end offer. I don't want to say, oh, well, look, we're going to see you for 6 visits and you're going to get a quick result, and then we'll talk about what we really do, which is what some people do, right? And it can work to get a lot of people starting, but the retention is going to be affected, and obviously the credibility and positioning is going to be totally damaged. So I think the front end offer in a corrective office, and really the only kind of major way you can do this, is the case review / examination. All right? And so it's relatively low risk. And when it comes to the quick results, the idea that I essentially implemented here is that, you're not going to get quick results in terms of some type of care, but you're going to get quick results in terms of identifying the problem, right? So that's why it's a good front-end offer. Look, I don't know what's going on with you, but I know that there could be a structural problem. There could be a neurological problem with your spinal nervous system. Might be affecting you in the ways you're telling me about. Could be affecting you in other ways. Let's do a case review. And if I think an examination makes sense, we'll do an examination and we'll figure out if there's an actual problem there. So that's the quick results, right? That's why it's a good front-end offer. It's also why we want to separate the case review and examination, right? Because you're giving them that very low risk, easy to enter opportunity to come and talk to you, to learn about what's going on, and to quickly identify if they're in the right place or not. It's obviously incomplete because they have to do something after it. So think about that definitive spot as where people are entering your practice, and we've got this set up for you, case review examination. You now have a really nice front-end offer. Here's where it starts to get really interesting, and this is what I love. In the old days in chiropractic, and what still exists in tons of offices, let's be honest, is, day 1, day 2 is, a bigger sales pitch, and essentially the mindset of the doctor is, I need to get this person under lifetime care right now. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, in the past, 1, that's very stressful. 2, I really prejudged a lot of patients, right? Somebody would come in with pain, as an example. Oh, this person's not going to be a very good practice member, right? This person's going to be a junkie case. They're not going to stay forever. They're not going to bring their kids. And so maybe I, unconsciously didn't give it my all. Maybe unconsciously, I didn't put them through the process properly. Whereas, a mom comes in with her kids and she's already pre-qualified, you're super stoked because in your mind, you're like, oh, this person's going to be great. They're going to be a lifetime practice member. Does that make sense? That sounds, yeah. So for me, I did that for years. And part of it was I saw everything that happens after the front end offer as that it was just, okay, that's the rest. And more recently, in the last year or so, I realized that what if I made my core product, and even more so my core offer, just the corrective care portion of biostructural restoration, right? What if that was just my core offer? Meaning this, and we've talked about this, but number 1, what that means is we're going to get people to start into the corrective care program. So we're going to accept them into that, all right? And the mindset is, and I wouldn't say this to somebody, but ideally, I don't really care if they continue beyond this, right? I'm totally okay with accepting this case as is in this particular situation, as long as we can agree to complete the core product, which is the corrective care, right? You want to buy a beautiful new Porsche, you're not selling just the door or the wheels, you're selling the Porsche. Right. So your Porsche is the corrective care. So we get the agreement there, we accept them into the practice. And what I found was that mindset of, okay, I'm just going to accept based on my criteria and the fact that there's actually a core problem. I'm going to accept as many new cases as I possibly can, and I'm going to only focus on getting them to complete corrective care. And what happens after that, although we have systems in place and there's a whole conversation, my main focus is what would happen if I just tried to get people to complete their corrective care and nailed it out of the park with that? And what happened was my stress went down, right? Because I wasn't worried about whether they would continue because I was just going to keep seeing new cases, agree to corrective care, and complete that process.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found, Matt, is the retention just kept going up. It was still strong. Now, part of that is the communication that happens during corrective care, and obviously you're pre-framing what could be next. But from the stress level, that part completely diminished. Because whether they became a lifetime practice member, it wasn't really up to me. And what happened was we started accepting a lot more cases of people who I probably wouldn't have thought would be good practice members, and it turned out they were great practice members. I just had to deliver the care at the level of where they were at, which was focus them in on corrective care and provide great care, great results during that, and then they would move on. The other byproduct is this. If people leave after your corrective care and you're not giving them a hard time and they feel like they got a ton of value, right? Before, I always thought if they left ever, they got no value from my service because they didn't become a lifetime practice member. So what a waste. But now I recognize that if they complete corrective care, we've made a massive impact in their life. Yes, they should continue to optimize the spine and nervous system. But when they leave, Matt, they're out there telling people about your process. And they're not saying, oh, well, you have to go forever. And they're not saying, well, they gave me a really hard time when I left. Or they really tried to sell me hard on staying for a lifetime or bringing my kids. It's, look, go there. These guys are great. Dr. Matt and his team do a great job at helping with your spine and helping your body work better, whatever we get them to understand about your process, you're going to create an amazing reputation, which in the end is actually going to lead to far more referrals. And I think, I've nailed that. That's one of the reasons why very hardcore subluxation-based 12-month, type systems that are, let me put it this way, they're charging full fees. Because some of the offices that do that charge really low fees, sure, they're going to have lots of referrals because there's low fees, no front end, barriers. And it's just this, we're going to get as many people in as we can, get as many on lifetime care, and the rest will come out. You're charging high fees, delivering high care, high quality. Those people that leave, they're going to have a really good thing to say about your practice, and they're going to refer a ton more people in. So the point was, I'm going to show you how to do the moms group, but I want you to understand where this falls and what the point is. You're trying to acquire the leads that fit your single target market in the moms group or whatever avenue. Let's say it's a lead magnet and you got their email, so you're doing email marketing. You're going to try and move them from cold, warm to hot to get to the point where they're ready to come to your practice. Now, the last piece that I want you to get, two pieces. One, once your core offer is done, right? And so that's that core we're talking about. Actually, I want you to think about that as what you become known for. So when somebody says, what's your core product? To me, my core product is the corrective care process, right? That's what I want to be known for. Beyond that is the retention. So that's your VIP, ongoing, hey, you're part of the family. If you do a good job on the front end offer and you do a good job in the core product, you're going to build really long-term retention, okay? Now swing back around to the front end here, cold, warm, hot. Whether they're coming in through email and you're email marketing them or whether you got them in the Facebook group, the idea is you need to still move them through a series of psychological steps. So here's what a lot of doctors do, and this is where huge mistakes are made. We think only about the front end offer. Like I need to get new people to my door. But we don't think about the whole psychological process that gets us to that point. So let me give you the steps. You ready? They need to identify that they have a problem. Now, that problem doesn't have to be pain, by the way. And this is why understanding your single target market is important. So in our moms group, it's literally, Matt, a mine. It is a mine for valuable data. Within 2 weeks of this group being started, right now we're right around 150 members, 150 local moms in this group already in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm in a tiny little market. So imagine if we can use this type of model in a larger market. Now, your wife's going to have to really step up and be the face of the group, though.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's okay for you to be in there. It's okay for you to be a part of it. But if our single target market is female moms and caregivers, we need a female mom and caregiver in there leading the way.
Sure.
Okay? So people need to identify there's a problem. They need to figure out that it's impacting their life in some way, like it's really affecting them. They need to recognize that, they're not having any luck dealing with it on their own. They need to figure out what to do about it. And then they need to start researching and looking into who that could be and what experts and professionals might be able to help them. And then eventually they're going to schedule an appointment, which still, by the way, doesn't mean they're going to come in.
Yeah.
And then they're going to show up. And only at that point do you have the opportunity to go through your day one, your day two, get them into the core product and so on and so forth. So I think, especially with the new practice startup, but even in an existing practice, we need to spend a lot of time and focus strategizing on what that's going to look like. So what it means is this: when we get the group going, and this applies to every other marketing strategy you're using, especially with social media, when you're creating content, you're thinking both about the single target market that content's for, and you're also thinking about where different people are at in that process. So we want to create content that connects with those different places. So for example, your cold content is probably going to be more, videos, blog posts, and messages around the problem and the effect on somebody's life. Right? And maybe a little bit of the fact that people, aren't able to figure this out on their own. And then your warmer content's going to deal more with things like, again, I can't figure it out on my own. What are the solutions? Who could that be? What professionals could I seek? And then the hot ones are going to be, kind of the final making my decision process. What types of things do I need to have in terms of information to help me make that decision? So, for example, I had written for the gym a blog post on Fit Club versus Boot Camp. So if people are searching around and like, oh, should I check out this Fit Club place? Should I go to a boot camp? Well, boom, there's a blog post for that, right? Chiropractic versus physiotherapy, chiropractic versus massage, right? Those would be really great blog posts and videos and content to have as cornerstone content on your website for when people are searching that, versus the cold stuff might be more things that are directed towards collateral damage, right? And then again, what's our single target market? That collateral damage might be things specific to them. So fever, ear infections, colic, behavioral issues, right? That's a very different communication to a cold lead in a mom's group than it might be to somebody in a different type of group or, a different, say, ad that you're trying to create. You get the idea?
Yeah.
So I think for you in the beginning, I would just nail this single target market. And I know, and trust me, it is so difficult to get your head around that and to commit to doing it, because it's so easy to go, well, here's a post. I should write this article about, this other topic that I know other people need to know about. Become, I've been saying this a lot, become the mayor of family care, right? Become the mayor of family care, or whatever your single target market is. Become the mayor of family care, and don't worry about the other stuff. The other stuff is going to be addressed. There'll be some peripheral fallout from that, right? Somebody's going to, catch an article about something.Maybe it wasn't exactly what they were looking for, but they're going to see your professionalism. They're going to get that you're an expert, and they're going to see you as a chiropractor, even if they think it's just as a normal conventional chiropractor. But they're going to see the, the communication and how you position yourself that way. But for the single target market, you're going to be nailing it. Okay? So
I have a question for you, Jamie. I'm going to be in that business area. I'm just curious. Like, originally my wife was thinking she was going to do a mom's group, and I was going to do something more geared towards professionals.
Yep.
And I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Ultimately, like my biggest question mark comes from, one, the demographic, because there is a lot of professionals there. Whether they're not, they're stay-at-home moms for sure, but there's also a lot of professionals. Okay. The other thing is, my wife being the sole face of it, like, what does that look like when they didn't come into my office?
So let me go back and say, when I say sole face, I just mean the face.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm still involved in the group, and I still answer questions, and people, for example, my wife's not a chiropractor, but she's the face of the group, right? So they know when they come in, they're going to see me. Now we have Dr. Zoe, so we have a female associate doctor as well as one of our associates. So, we've kind of solved that. Go back to the single target market. It's a great question. You don't have to only have one single target market. What I'm saying is, when you're communicate to the single target market. So you might have two. You might have moms, 30 to 60, moms and caregivers, and your lead acquisition strategy there, for the most part, is this mom's group. And so you're going to work on, targeting all the moms. Now, not in Denver. This is the thing, too. You're going to have to figure out what your market is, right, and what the parameter of your market is, because the more refined you get with your market, the better it's going to be.
Okay.
To a degree. You can't get down to the point where you have like 10 people in your market, but you get the idea. You want to know, look, within 10 miles of my area all the moms that are 30 to 65, moms and caregivers, or whatever it is. So you're going to have to figure that out. Where do people travel? What are people willing to travel to come and see you, right? Compared to where your competition is, all that type of stuff. Given that you're in this business district, yes, I think that's another target market for you. So I think you're going to have to do some work on that one, though, right? Outside the call here, and we can come back to it. So do some research on the market and try and figure out, what makes up that market. So you're like business professionals. Okay, but how old are most of these professionals? What's their average income? Are they male or female? Right? How many hours a week do they work? What are their hours at work? Are they willing to stay after work and go have a visit versus does everybody just shoot out to the suburbs after? What's the culture in that area? So I think those would be things you'd want to know, and that will start to develop, what are people's pain points? What are their challenges? And that's where you're going to start to develop your content. Now, in terms of a lead acquisition strategy there, I mean, let's say, for example, and I'm just guessing here, probably a slightly higher percentage of the professional population is going to be male, right? I would guess.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean there's not females. But again, if there's females, you're probably going to get less females that have kids, that are still kind of in their professional life, haven't had children yet.
Right.
Okay. So the moms group maybe isn't, again, the best lead acquisition strategy for them. So, what is the best lead acquisition strategy for males and females, super high stress, super busy lifestyles? I think that's something we're going to need to figure out. And now the upside to that is a lot of those people are on social media. They are, internet savvy. You may get better luck with them downloading lead magnets. You may want to, I think something that might be valuable for them is maybe a podcast, right? Maybe a show, maybe a video podcast. So maybe it doesn't have to be a podcast, just be a video show that you do twice a week from your Facebook page. And then you boost that out or set up a Facebook ad. Could create a group around that. So, I mean, we need to brainstorm on what that is, but you can't just have this single target market. Your next step is then we got to figure out a way to acquire these people. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's my key. Yeah, do I make 2 Facebook groups? Because that's where we were at.
Well, this is where I would start with the moms group for sure. Moms are way more active in groups than you're going to get as a business professional. I'm not sure a business professional is going to be interested in sitting around in a Facebook group and posting and asking questions. Number one, a lot of them are going to be driver type personalities. They're going to be looking for an expert, but they're not going to be interested in sharing their problems with other people in a group.
Yeah.
So I don't think a group is the way to go. I think a better way to go is to position yourself as like a major expert in whatever we figure out as that kind of really centerpiece message, which we'll come back to. And then you need to figure out a way to deliver it and deliver it in a way that is consistent. So again, maybe it's a podcast, right? Or some variation of a show. So let's come back and we'll circle back around on that on a different call. I want you to give some thought to the actual market. All right. And dig into that a bit, and then we can figure what type of content, Matt, they're going to consume, and then we can create the content. Okay. Right? So the content will get created last. So I like that. I think that's great. And then you and your wife can really focus on these 2 target markets.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Jamie again. I hope you got a lot out of today's episode. The topics covered here with Matt are vital to every single business and practice. And I hope that you've considered these. I hope that you figured these out or at least started to think about these. If you need some help with these, feel free to fire us off a message. We'd love to help you guys. And again, thank you so much for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.